Denmark and Norway are two countries that have a lot in common. Both countries are Scandinavian countries located in Northern Europe, they both speak a North Germanic language, and they both score near the top on social and economic development indices such as the Human Development Index. Denmark and Norway were even united as a single country, the Union of Denmark-Norway, for hundreds of years. But the two countries are also different in lots of ways. Number 1. Size. Norway is much bigger than Denmark. Kind of. With an area of 385,207 square kilometers, Norway is a little bigger than Germany. Meanwhile, excluding Greenland and Faroe Islands, which are autonomous countries within the Kingdom of Denmark, Denmark is quite small at just 43,094 square kilometers, about the same size as Estonia or the Netherlands. But if we include Greenland and Faroe Islands, the entire Kingdom of Denmark has an area of 2,210,408 square kilometers. That's almost 6 times as large as Norway. Number 2. Different physical landscapes. Denmark is one of the world's flattest countries, with an average elevation of just 32 meters above sea level. The highest point in the country is just 171 meters above sea level. Norway's terrain is extremely mountainous, and the country's average elevation is 460 meters above sea level. The Norwegian mountains are not particularly tall, but the highest point in the country is 2,469 meters above sea level, which is still much taller than the highest point in Denmark. The mountains of Norway are famous for how they reach the coast and drop off into the ocean, where they form dramatic cliffs and are intersected by fjords, long, narrow, deep valleys carved out by glaciers that have melted. The melting glaciers are also responsible for Norway's mountains being so steep and jagged, and for the creation of Norway's huge number of islands, the exact number of which depends on what counts as an island. Counts range from 50,000 to 239,037, a number which includes anything of 10 square meters or more. Denmark, on the other hand, has 403 islands with names and 1,414 islands of more than 100 square meters. As for fjords, Denmark has them, but they're surrounded by hills or flat land rather than steep, jagged mountains. And they were not directly carved out by glaciers, so geologically speaking, they're technically not fjords, but they're commonly referred to as fjords. Number 3. Danes ride their bikes more than Norwegians. Denmark's largely flat terrain has made bicycles an incredibly popular form of transportation in Denmark, with an excellent cycling infrastructure with extensive bike lanes, sometimes with physical barriers, and special traffic signals for cyclists in urban areas. This reflects the Danish government's emphasis on becoming fossil fuel independent and reducing their carbon footprint. Denmark is second to the Netherlands as a nation of cyclists, and many Danes cycle to work or school. In the capital Copenhagen, 50% of people commute by bicycle, and Danes cycle an average of 1.6 kilometers per day. Norway is a beautiful place to cycle because of its stunning scenery, but cycling there is more recreational and less of a daily form of transportation. Number 4. Norwegians are much bigger skiers than Danes. As in most of Europe, the most popular sport in Denmark is football, also known as soccer. While football is popular in Norway, especially for active participation, Norway's snow and mountainous terrains mean that skiing is also incredibly popular. Biathlon and cross-country skiing are the most popular spectator sports on TV, and the majority of the population own their own pair of skis. Norwegians excel at basically every type of skiing, whether that be biathlon, cross-country skiing, downhill, or ski jumping. Other popular winter sports in Norway are speed skating and curling. Norway is so dominant at winter sports that they usually top the medal table at the Winter Olympics. At the 2022 Winter Olympics, Norway set a record by winning 16 gold medals and 37 medals overall. Remember, Norway has a population of just over 5 million. You may be wondering, if Denmark is so flat, then why don't Danes excel at cross-country skiing as much as Norwegians do? Well, there's simply much less snow in Denmark due to the lower elevation. Number 5. Danes drink more than Norwegians, and I mean alcohol. In Denmark, you can buy all kinds of alcohol at convenience stores and supermarkets, and it's common and perfectly legal to drink outside in public. In Norway, only government-run liquor stores sell beverages with more than 4.7% alcohol. And at supermarkets, you can't buy alcohol after 8 p.m. on weekdays and 6 p.m. on Saturdays, and you can't buy it at all on Sundays. Your only option outside of those times is to go to a bar and pay the exorbitant prices for a drink. Alcohol prices in Norway are 120% above the European average, the most expensive in Europe. It's also illegal to drink in public in Norway, something that's unthinkable to Danish beer enthusiasts. Number 6. Historic minorities. In each country, the dominant ethnicity, Danish and Norwegian respectively, make up the vast majority of the population, but there are different minority groups in either country, which reflects their geography. For Denmark, which borders Germany to the south, the most historically important is the German minority of the northern Schleswig area. Schleswig, or Schleswig, was historically a duchy controlled by Denmark, and it had inhabitants who spoke Danish, Frisian, and Low German. After a war in 1864, Denmark lost all of the territory to Austria and Prussia, but after the First World War it became divided between Denmark and Germany. Today, the German-speaking population of northern Schleswig is small, about 15,000 people, but German is recognized as a minority language in Denmark. In Norway, almost half of which lies above the Arctic Circle, an important historic minority is the Sami people, a group of semi-nomadic peoples who traditionally engaged in reindeer herding. The Sami people live across the high Arctic nations of Northern Europe, including Sweden, Finland, and Russia. The Sami people speak Sami languages, a group of related languages in the Uralic language family, meaning they're related to Finnish. Now that we're on the subject of languages, number 7. Denmark and Norway have different official languages. Kind of. Because both languages are part of the North Germanic language family, they're closely related enough to be mutually intelligible to some extent, especially in writing, and especially for bokmål, one of Norwegian's two main written varieties. For centuries, Norway was ruled by a Danish-speaking elite while part of the Union of Denmark-Norway, which was not an equal partnership but dominated by Denmark. After the end of the Union, bokmål was to a large extent adapted from Danish. But despite bokmål and Danish being very similar in writing, the pronunciation of Norwegian and Danish is quite different, making them much less mutually intelligible in speech. For more information, check out this video I made comparing the Norwegian and Danish languages, and this one about Norwegian. Number 8. EU membership. Denmark joined the predecessor organization to the European Union in 1973, and remains an EU member today. Though it negotiated certain opt-outs, including the use of its own currency, the kroner, rather than the euro. Norway is not part of the EU. It narrowly rejected EU membership in a 1994 referendum. But Norway is part of the European Free Trade Association, which means Norwegian goods and people can move freely across Europe and vice versa. Norway also has its own currency, the kroner. But this is not the same as the Danish kroner, so don't get them mixed up if you travel from one country to the other. Number 9. Oil wealth. Both countries have developed economies and are among the most prosperous nations in the world, but Norway is wealthier because of its oil production. The petroleum industry generates 40% of Norwegian exports and about 14% of its GDP, though this fluctuates with the price of oil. Norway in fact has the highest oil production per capita in the world outside the Middle East. Revenues from the oil industry have allowed the country's sovereign wealth funds to surpass $1 trillion in asset value. That's the equivalent of $190,000 per Norwegian. Denmark has oil too. In fact, with its 64,000 barrels of oil produced per day, it's the largest oil producer in the EU, now that the UK has left it. But that's nothing compared to Norway, which produces almost 1.8 million barrels per day. As you can see, Denmark and Norway are different in many different ways, despite being sibling countries with many things in common. If you're Norwegian or Danish, what differences do you notice between your country and the other? And to other people, what's something new you learned about Norway or Denmark in this video? Leave your answers in the comments down below. If you want to support this channel and see videos 1 week early, please click the join button next to the subscribe button to find out how you can become a channel member. Denmark and Norway are both Nordic nations. Another Nordic nation is Finland. I'm entirely sure you'll learn something new about this fascinating country.